All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Dimes and Donuts podcast, your deep dive into the BAAD Owners Fantasy League. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Nick.
And today we actually have trades. Let's just jump right into those. So the first trade was between the Dallas Clovers and the No Robins. The Clovers received Zay Flowers and No Robins 2024 fifth round pick. The No Robins received Miles Sanders, the Indica's 2024 second, and the Clovers 2024 third. How do you feel about this trade?
Immediately, I think the Clovers are in a much better spot. You dump out Miles Sanders, who's, he's not old, but he's a running back who's not a crazy home run hitter or anything. And you get a fifth in return. For No Robins, there is potential that if Zay Flowers, as a Raven wide receiver, which historically have not done exceedingly well, if he ends up just being a little bit of a flash in the pan, that 2024 second from the Irving Indica, who are currently doing terrible, and the Clovers 2024 third, could end up being a pretty decent return. So I think it's all just dependent on how well Zay Flowers ends up being. If Zay Flowers is as good as what he's been playing like long term, Clovers win. Otherwise, No Robins win.
It's a quick turnaround, though. Zay was the 10th pick in our draft, so that's a first-round pick. Immediately traded, so it is odd. But yeah, we'll see going forward with that. Looks like in the future. Next, we've got trade 2. We've got the Irving Indica taking Dallas Goedert, Quentin Johnson, and Kayvon Thibodeau from No Robins, who receive Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, this one, man, I think the Indica immediately win this. Quentin Johnston, he hasn't produced yet, but he's on a hypercharged Chargers defense. Kayvon Thibodeau is, I think he was like the second overall, right? Defensive lineman, or no, he might have been the fourth overall. I think Aiden Hutchinson was second. Right. And then Dallas Goedert, who's a perfectly serviceable tight end for Baker Mayfield, who, again, it's another situation. If Baker Mayfield ends up having a late career resurgence on the Buccaneers, No Robins wins. It's tough to get a good starting quarterback with the limited supply. But as of now, I don't know. I'm not too convinced. And I think Quentin Johnson alone makes the Indica come out ahead right now.
I think the No Robins addressed a need. They needed a quarterback, and there aren't that many starting quarterbacks in the league that are going to get you like a guaranteed 14, 16 points every week. I think Baker can be that guy. Okay, cool. So next we've got trade 3. We have the Plano Nukes, who received the Clovers 2024 second round pick and their 2024 fourth round pick, and the Clovers received Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, so I was in this trade, so I want to hear what you have to think about this.
Yeah, I put a clown emoji on it as soon as I saw it. I think this is Clovers being Clovers. I think this is ridiculous. I think that trading away a second and fourth, and I think, again, the Dallas Clovers second and fourth mean a lot more than a lot of other teams. Those are going to be high picks. And you're talking about the worst offense in football right now, other than the Bears, in terms of, the quarterback position. So, yeah, I don't like this trade at all. Maybe Kenny Pickett is the man and he ends up being great, but I don't see it.
You think the Steelers are going to try to move on from Kenny Pickett sometime soon, or you think he's going to have a bit more time as a starter?
I think if I'm the Clovers, I hope that they move on from him, because I think anybody playing in Pittsburgh right now is not going to put up great points. Okay. They were chanting in the stands this week for the offensive coordinator to be fired. So, yeah, Kenny Pickett.
Well, yeah, their offensive coordinator is terrible, so who knows? Maybe Kenny Pickett, again, will end up looking better with the new offensive coordinator, but it's up in the air. As of right now, I'm pretty happy about it regardless. I had too many starting quarterbacks. I get rid of one, and we enter the next year's rookie draft.
Yeah, it's crazy. You did not need another quarterback. Okay, cool. So those are the trades, first trades of the season. Appreciate everybody participating. Now we're going to go straight into the dimes of the week. So the first dime we have is the quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa of the Tudgate, who scored 28.4 points. I was shocked this wasn't higher.
I completely agree. Everyone already knows 70 points, not 70 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, 70 points, but only five of them were passing, only got you 28.4 points. But wow, what a crazy game, and I'm sure we'll see other Dolphins players popping up.
With no Jalen Waddle. That's the craziest part of that game.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Nope. All right, who do we have at running back?
At running back is a big reason why Tua didn't end up getting more than 28.4 points. Devon Achane with 51.3 points at the No Robins.
Yeah,
and was sitting on his bench.
That's wild. I mean, 51.3 points for any player is insane, but I think the highest we've ever had a running back score was Joe Mixon last year at 55, so this is really close to the record. And yeah, in an absolute college football blowout, stupid game. It was really fun to watch, and it was really fun to watch him run. So next we've got for wide receiver, Keenan Allen for the second week in a row of Point Break with 44.5 points. Keenan Allen, what a resurgence.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that, when you're tied to a quarterback like Justin Herbert and both of you are healthy and playing well, you're going to get a lot of points. So huge player to have on your team right now, and Point Break is looking very good for having him there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Next at tight end, we've got Sam Laporta of No Robins. So this is great, for the No Robins, because this was their draft pick this year in the second round. Picked second overall in the second round, and he is right now the number 2 tight end in football.
Yeah.
So love that. I mean, putting up 22.4 points, that's triple what I would expect my tight end to usually get.
Especially as a rookie tight end. Tight ends usually take a few years to develop. And so, I mean, even if this is just like a flash of what's to come and he's not going to hit these numbers, for the rest of the season, I'd be very excited about him for the next few years.
It's a really smart draft pick too, because again, they just got rid of Hawkinson. Somebody had to fill those shoes, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah, that's definitely really like a good point. Yeah.
Next, we've got at the defensive line, Myles Garrett of the Trash Fires.
Oh, it's not a rocker on the defensive line.
Points. It's not a rocker. If it's not a rocker, it's usually Myles Garrett or TJ Watt. And this week it's Myles Garrett. So Myles Garrett put up 44 points. He had 2 sacks and had one of them was just insane, where he had the left tackle under his left arm and then just kept pushing and then grabbed the quarterback with his other and then drove both of them to the ground. Like, this dude is a monster. I think that the Browns are going to lean heavily on their defense. It looks legit. So I think he's going to do that a lot this year.
Yeah, and then in the linebacker position, Terrell Bernard, 42 points, was not owned by any BAAD Owners team left on the waivers. So I'm sure someone's going to be coming in to snap them right up. But 42 points from a potential waiver wire pickup, I'm going to be interested. It's going to be interesting to see who ends up dropping the fab in order to snatch him up.
Yeah, we'll see. And then at defensive back, we've got another rookie. This one was picked, not a rookie, not a true rookie, but first time that he's been played. He was drafted in our startup draft in 2022, 13th round. Kyle Hamilton, 38 points. Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about this pre-show. Like, that's incredible.
Oh my gosh, wait, that's actually a typo. He scored 47 points this week. 38 was what somebody scored last week. Sorry.
That was a typo.
He scored 47 points as a defensive back. He had 3 sacks and a forced fumble. Wow. 3 sacks as a DB. If I had Kyle Hamilton, I'd be putting him in all the time. Looks like they're scheming for him specifically. So that's amazing.
That is insane to have in a slot of which, DBs, that's pretty rough to come by a consistent point scorer, so it's always awesome to get someone like that.
Agreed. So that's going to wrap up the Dimes of the Week. We'll jump right into donuts. So for donuts, we only got one person to add to the donut counter this week, and that is CD's Nuts with Justice Hill. What happened with him this week?
Yeah, he was out. I'm not sure if it was just a timing issue, which is that CD's, because he was somewhat late. It's not like he was an all-week out situation. But right. I'm wondering if maybe he went out and CD's Nuts just, for whatever reason, didn't have time and didn't see it before they ended up playing. But that's an unfortunate miss.
Well, if he's watching right now, he's still considered questionable and did not practice today. We are filming on Wednesday. So
there you go.
There you go. All right, now we're going to go into the matchups. So our first match was the Plano Nukes taking on the TD11 Tudgays. This was America's game of the week for sure. Everybody wanted to know where this was going to pan out like, especially with the Tudgays having a lot of Dolphins firepower. Still could not pull this one out. The Plano Nukes take it 317.08 to 309.42.
And it was a close game. Just so everyone understands how down to the wire this was, it might look like an 8-point gap. We were 0.5 points away in the last quarter of the last game on Monday Night Football in the Bengals game. And he has Joe Burrow, and I have Joe Mixon. It was a very, very close game.
Yeah, that's insane. Next, we've got the Irving Indica, who take another loss at 260.82 points to CD's Nuts 267.3. Very close game. But another heartbreaker for the Indica as they drop to 1-5.
Yeah, that's just probably the biggest shock this season so far, would you say?
Definitely. It's not even close.
Yeah.
That's got to be the biggest shock. We haven't had anybody really show that was like a bottom tier last team shoot up super significantly, but the Irving Indica have definitely fallen. So next we've got the Atlanta Cicadas, who took on the Trash Fires. The Trash Fires, with 323.58 points, take the win here against the Atlanta Cicadas, who scored 307. You hate not only losing a game when you score 307, but not even hitting the median. This week was insane. Oh, our league median, by the way, was 308.27.
Is that the highest median we've had? I don't know.
I believe so. Yeah,
but it wouldn't surprise me.
It's very close if it's not. And then next we got the Castle Rock Rockers falling to No Robbins. No Robbins scored 328.22. Castle Rock scored 302.42. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing more to say.
That's back-to-back weeks.
Points, that's unfortunate.
It's back-to-back weeks of the 10th power ranked team winning over a top 4 team. With both teams getting over 300. Just saying.
With great passion, yeah. And they both happen to, yeah.
Hey, jot that down.
Next, we got the Dallas Clovers. Your sweetheart of a team. You seemed to be really fond of them last week. Who scored 185.9 points. And Point Break didn't quite double them, but scored 325.4 points.
Right.
Yeah, not much to say there. Dallas Clovers are the Dallas Clovers, but Point Break, I mean, that's incredible. They did a really good job. They had Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes getting back into, mid-season form. They definitely like to see that. A lot of points from Point Break.
All right, let's hop into the standings currently. So at number 1, why don't you take us away from there? Who's sitting at the throne?
The only undefeated team, the Plano Nukes, are sitting at 6-0 in the number 1 spot. Then we've got the Trash Fires coming in at 5-1. Love that for them. The TD11 Tudgays at 4-2, and then the CD's Nuts at 4-2. That's the big surprise, I think, so far in the standings for me. Then we have 5 teams that all have 2-4 records and are just separated by points for at this point. We've got the Castle Rock Rockers, No Robbins, Point Break FC, Atlanta Cicadas, and the Dallas Clovers. And can't believe I'm saying this, but the only team at 1-5, the bottom of the standings, is the Irving Indica.
I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, but I feel like it just needs to be said again. This is shocking. I mean, it's crazy.
Losses. It's not good. Not looking good. So those are the standings. Pretty cut and dry. Again, it's still very early, but I mean, you're taking a good lead up there. Next, we've got the power ranking. Why don't you start us off on the power ranking?
Yeah, so looking at the power rankings this week.
And start from the bottom.
Okay, starting from the bottom, regaining...
Wait, no, start from the top. We're starting from the top.
What are you going to do? Is it the top? Is it the bottom?
It's the top.
Starting at number 1?
Yes, we're starting at number 1. We did it last week, and number 1 doesn't have as much movement.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Starting at number 1, we still have the TD11 Tudgays. I know they lost this week to me. I still think that their team is crazy. They have the highest max points for and the highest points for. Honestly, the fact that they are 4-2 is just bad luck. But consistency at those high scoring weeks, that's going to win you the league. Coming in at number 2 is myself, the Nukes. Undefeated, the second highest points for, second highest max points for. I'm feeling fantastic and couldn't have asked for a better start to the season, especially in a season in which I wasn't 100% sure about my team, but it looks like we're doing it. We're doing the thing.
Well, you were ranked number 2 in the power rankings for preseason.
Yeah, but in the back of my head, it just felt bad. But sometimes you just got to trust what you see on paper. So
you just got to look at the paper. Speaking of things that are harder to see on paper right now, the Rockers, even though they may be only 2-4, I do think that they still deserve their spot at number 3. We've got a really, really good roster. We've put up back-to-back high-scoring weeks. Again, alone from that first awful week, they're definitely coming back up. Then we've got the Trash Fires, also staying at 4 this week. Put up an amazing amount of points. Their quarterbacks too. I think they have number 1 and 2 in terms of points, with Kirk Cousins, surprisingly, and Justin Herbert, both just amazing fantasy quarterbacks this year. So that's great for them.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Cicadas at 5, back into the playoff picture. We had them at 7 last week. They did pretty well this week, 307 points despite missing the median and the win. That may affect you in the standings, but it won't for power rankings. And then CD's Nuts at 6, and they were at 6 last week, so that rounds out our playoff picture. Do you want to start going through the bottom feeders?
Yeah, so honestly, it's tough to even call some of these teams bottom feeders because I think you're seeing a lot of excitement coming up from the bottom of the power rankings. At number 7 is Point Break, starting to claw back what feels like should be rightfully theirs, which is a playoff contention slot. We were reasonably high on them coming into the year, but with back-to-back double loss weeks, it was hard to keep them up. But with a huge resurgence, coming back and claiming victory with the second most points this week, Point Break is sitting at our number 7 slot, followed up by No Robbins, who last week we ranked at number 10, coming up with 328 points to lead the league in points. I did, and you know what? They came back and proved me wrong. 100% agreed. Yeah, and then at number 9, the Irving Indica. Such a shocker, but they were ranked 5 last week, but with 3 weeks of just to put in perspective how poor their team's been performing, they week 3 scored 260.82 points, and that is their current season high. That's low.
Yeah, in terms of BAAD Owners history, you need to score at least 280 typically to win a median. So yeah, your best week still being 20 points below our normal threshold, that does not pan out well. And they started at 4 in our preseason rankings, stayed there after week 1 because we believed in the team. But yeah, after 3 weeks of showing us who they are, we have to put them at 9. There's just no argument against it. And then rounding out the bottom, they should have been there last week, but I was overruled. The Dallas Clovers, after putting up a very Clovers-like performance, are staying at number 10.
Yeah, I think, they yo-yoed a little bit. They didn't yo-yo that high. They went up to 8. But I think that it was fair at the time. The teams above them had not won a game or a median game, but with 2 weeks out of 3 now being sub 200, I think there's no way to argue anything other than the absolute last place in the power rankings for the Clovers.
I don't think any other team has scored under 200 this year.
No. So. Yeah, I think in the history of the league, it has not happened very often, and the vast majority of them are the Clovers.
When you've got that many players, it's really, really hard to score under 200.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, that ends week 3 of the Dimes and Donuts podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Nick, do you have anything to sign off with?
Nukes are still undefeated. Have a good day.